Dear sewing friends, today we're going to be making a top that I've been making for quite a few years now. It's super simple to draft, super simple to sew, but it actually has a lot of really unique design possibilities. And as always, I urge you to look beyond what you see in a simple sketch, to look beyond what you see in a simple pattern, and to really engage your creativity. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. I made you a little sketch. Let me show that to you a little bit up close. Now you can make this top in both knits and wovens. Today we're going to be taking a look at a knit version. You will need just a few simple measurements, and remember, if I can do it, then you can do it for sure. So without any further ado, let's get to work. Now, to really emphasize that this is really easy and to encourage you to move forward, if you think about this pattern drafting in terms of really simple shapes, it's actually just a modified letter T with longer sleeves, and it really is that simple. Go ahead, grab your measuring tape and write down these simple measurements. First, you're going to need nape to waist measurement, so from the neck all the way to your waist. Then you're going to need 3 circumferences. You will need a circumference of your bust, your waist, and your hips. So you're going to take your measuring tape, you're going to place on these parts of your body. The measuring tape is going to be parallel to the floor, and then you're going to record these circumferences. And you're also going to need back shoulder width measurement. The way that I measure it for drafting these type of patterns is very simple. From one edge of the shoulder to another edge of the shoulder on the back, going through the nape at exactly the same spot where you started your measurement that went nape to waist. Alright, so to get started, we're going to need our nape to waist measurement. Now we're going to start on this side of our pattern paper or whatever you're using, but leave a little bit of space up top because we're going to need it later. So go ahead, grab your ruler, a pencil, and draft the measurement from your nape to your waist. Now here's my measurement. Now go ahead and divide this measurement in half and make a little mark. Just like so. Over here, you're going to draft a straight perpendicular line with half of your back shoulder width measurement. There we go. Now at this mark right over here where we divided our nape to waist measurement in half, you're going to place a straight perpendicular line, which is going to be equal to 1/4 of your bust circumference. There we go. Now here on the bottom, you're going to draft a straight perpendicular line with 1/4 of your waist circumference. There we go. Now you should have one vertical line with 3 horizontal lines attached to it. Now let's talk about the width of the neckline. I want my neckline to be 7 inches wide, which gives me 3.5 inches since we're working with half of the pattern. Now we are going to mark 3.5 inches. Now I'm marking it according to my preference. For you, that might be a different number and different value. What I would suggest for you is to take your favorite t-shirt or your favorite top and measure the width of the neckline there. That will help you to determine how wide you will want to do the neckline for this top. But if you're not sure, start small because you can always make the neckline bigger, but not the other way around. Then from this point, I'm going to take 1 inch up. Since this is going to be the back pattern piece, as always, in the majority of the cases, we'll start with the back pattern piece. Let's go ahead and complete the back neckline. And for you to see a little bit better, I'm going to outline this in black. Now currently the length of our garment stops at the waistline because we did a measurement here, nape to waist. However, I want my garment to be about 6 inches longer, so I want it to go kind of almost all the way up to my buttocks. So I want to extend it by 6 inches. So go ahead and extend this vertical line by however long you would like your garment to be. Now, as I mentioned, I'm extending my garment to go a little bit lower. Therefore, as the bottom of my garment, I'm going to take 1/4 of my hip circumference. Now, let's say you decide to finish your garment just a tiny bit below your waist, and then take 1/4 of circumference of that spot, since obviously you won't need to take the 1/4 of circumference of your hip. So I think that makes sense. So wherever you want your garment to end, take 1/4 circumference of that spot. So right here on the bottom of our pattern draft, I'm gonna go ahead and mark 1/4 of my hip circumference, like so. Now that we have all 3 of these, we can go ahead and create a side seam. Now here's a really important point. We took our 1/4 measurements as they are, so we did not add any ease, and we need to do that. Now there's different types of ease. There is a wearable ease, there's a design ease, and although we're working with knit fabric, with fabric that stretches, I am still going to add a little bit of ease to my measurements just to give me some room in case if I want to wear some sort of other garment underneath my top. If you want a snug fit and your knit stretches quite a bit, you can leave it as is. But let's go ahead and add some ease in my case. I'm gonna go ahead and add just 1/4 of an inch to each one of these measurements. I'm gonna start at the bottom and make my way up. There we go, and there we go. And depending on the style of the garment that you're going for, depending on the design, you can add more ease if you would like to. But this is what we're going to get started with. To create a side seam, for the first step, go ahead and grab a pencil. Now let's connect these 2 points right over here. So the bottom of your garment with the waist circumference. So just go ahead and connect it with a straight line like so. There we go. We're going to do exactly the same thing between your waist and your bust measurements. Now from this top line right over here, from your bust measurement, just go ahead and take a straight perpendicular line up. It doesn't have to be of any particular length. Just take a straight line up. It is going to help us out a little bit later when we're going to build the sleeve. Now this is what we have for a side seam, and we cannot leave it like this because these angles need to be adjusted in order for us to have a beautiful garment. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to smooth this line where we have our waist, and we're going to smooth this corner right over here as well. First, right over here on the bottom, go ahead and take a straight perpendicular line up, probably for about 1 inch. And here at the waist, I'm going to extend this line by about another 1/2 inch. There we go. Now I want to reconnect my side seam. I want to connect this old point with the new point and with a new point again. As you can see, it is looking a lot better. All we need to do right now is just really smooth this out so that way it creates a beautiful side seam for our garment. Let me outline the new line in black so that way you can see a little bit better. Now there we go. That is going to be our new side seam. Just a quick mention here that if you are a member of this channel, first of all, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And then of course, check your members perks, because not only you have instruction sheets with step-by-step drafting instructions available for this particular project, but for 30 other projects, and of course, members extra videos and other perks as a thank you for being a member of this channel. Now, memberships are a paid function, so if you are not a member and you're just not sure what it is all about, I will leave all of the information for you guys in the info box underneath this video. Now, to record the measurement of your sleeve, it's actually really straightforward. I know that my neckline isn't going to be too wide. It's going to be just about as it is right over here. Therefore, I'm going to take my measuring tape. I'm going to place one end right over here at the base of the neck. And then I'm gonna go ahead and in a slightly bent position right here at the elbow, I'm gonna take a look what it measures at the wrist, and that is going to be the length of my sleeve. And obviously after that, you can go ahead and play with this measurement however you would like. Now that we have our sleeve measurement, let's go ahead and reflect that on our pattern. What we want to do is we want to start at this point right over here, and we want to place our ruler so that it goes through this point and this point. There we go. And we want to make a line that is going to be equal to the length of the sleeve that we want. So for me, that's going to be 23 inches. All right, as you can see, it goes from here all the way till here. For the width of the sleeve, we have two spots to consider when we're taking that measurement. First, we want to take a look at how wide is our upper arm circumference. So go ahead and place it like so. And then you want to add a little bit of ease to it because you probably don't want that sleeve to be super snug. So go ahead and add, let's say 1 inch, it will be like so. 2 inches, it will be like so, all right? And then we want to take a look at the elbow as well. Now, because we're cutting this pattern all in one, the sleeve and the bodice together, and if you're working with fabric that only stretches in one direction, we also need to make sure that our elbow can move freely like so, and the garment and the fabric is not restricting our movements right over here. So go ahead and take your measuring tape, place it on the elbow like so, and in a bent position like this, just go ahead and measure it. So the elbow measures for me 11 inches. My upper arm circumference measures about 10 inches. So I'm gonna go and take 12 inches and we're going to be using half of this measurement for the width of our sleeve. Now for the width of the sleeve, now that we have determined that value, let's go ahead and reflect that again. So what we want to do is at a right angle, so perpendicular to this line, which was the length of our sleeve, we are going to mark that measurement. So for me, that is going to be 6 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark it right over here. This line is also 6 inches long and it is also perpendicular to this sleeve length as well. Now that we have marked all of these little points that are equal distance, let's go ahead and connect them with a straight line. Now let's take a look at this intersection right over here. This is where the line that we took straight up from the bust line crosses the line that comes from the under the sleeve and goes all the way to the armpit. Now we cannot leave this angle like so for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to be really difficult to sew this little part. Number two, it's not going to look nice. And number three, we need to curve it in so that way this sleeve design where it is cut together with a bodice is gonna give us enough room for our shoulder and for our arm to move. So from this point right over here, go ahead and take a ruler and visually divide this angle in half and then take about, I would say, 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. So go ahead and take a straight line. I'm gonna do 1.5 inches. There we go, as you can see right over here. And now what we need to do is we need to curve this point into the side seam and then we need to curve it into the sleeve. So that's what we're going to do right now. There we go. And guess what? Our pattern for the back pattern piece is actually done. And creating one for the front pattern piece is going to be even easier because all we're going to do is copy and change just a couple of little things. So let me outline this in black and cut it out so that way you can see what's going on. Now here I have transferred my back pattern piece onto a new piece of paper. I have outlined that in black and I have already marked this is going to be front pattern piece. However, this is not the front just yet. We need to adjust 2 details and then we're going to be good to go. I'm going to do that in red so that way you can see a little bit better. First, what we want to do is we want to raise this point, the edge of the neckline or the shoulder point right over here. And the reason for it is because in the front we have more volume due to the bust. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1/2 inch up. Now this volume, just like anything else in pattern drafting, is not constant. If you have a larger bust, you can take more than just 1/2 inch up to 1 inch, depending on your preference really. So when you're going to be making a test garment, you will see if you need just 1/2 inch or maybe a little bit more. 1/2 inch usually works for most people. Now what we need to do is we need to blend in this new point with the rest of the sleeve. So go ahead and take a ruler, place it at the new point and angle it towards your sleeve like so. Now this is going to be our new shoulder line or the sleeve line. Now the front piece of the sleeve will be a little bit longer than the back pattern piece due to this adjustment right over here. However, I will show you how to ease it in without a problem. And over here, we need to adjust the depth of our neckline. I'm going to go ahead and take 2.5 inches down right over here. And from here, we're going to square a box like so. There we go. And now we just need to curve it in. And that's it. Your front pattern piece is ready. All we have to do is just cut off this little bit and you're good to go. Alright, now that our front and back pattern pieces are done, let's move on to cutting the fabric, sewing the pattern, and what are the differences between the top that I'm wearing right now and the hoodie that you see right behind me, because they're both made from this very simple pattern that we just completed, but as you can see, there are some differences. Now here's a very important point. All of my patterns that I draft on this channel, unless noted otherwise, I draft without seam allowances. I always add them as I cut out the fabric. Therefore, if you would like to see your seam allowances and your hem allowances on the paper pattern, then you will need to add them now before you cut the actual paper pattern out. But I'll see you in the video right over there, and then we'll talk more about that.